Hey everybody, it's Trigger Bar Philosopher. Welcome back out to the range. Today we're going to be continuing our testing of the FN510 Tactical. We're going to see if we can get reliability on some of these hotter loads. I have a new spring system in, so we'll test a few different loads to see if it's working properly. Should be a good time. Let's get shooting. Okay, well, as if you've been watching the videos, you will know about this, but if you haven't, let me just reintroduce the topic. We have the FN510 Tactical. This is a 10mm handgun, and it seems to be pretty good, although I will say that it's been interesting in the last couple of weeks. Kentucky Ballistics had one of these with a pretty similar setup, the Surefire X300, and when he was shooting it suppressed, the front end fell off, including the trigger guard and where the light is. He continued to run the gun, which was pretty impressive that the gun would run without the lower part of the frame and the front part of the gun. But I guess it makes sense that it would continue to run. There's nothing that important up there, I guess. But we're going to today be doing some testing. I did put a DPM systems. Again, I'm not advertising anything on this channel, but I put a DPM system, recoil spring system in the front of the gun. I now have their heaviest spring in there. I think that ends up being like a 24-pound spring. I'm going to start off, instead of testing out the hard cast ammo, I'm going to start off by testing out some weaker ammo. I have some SMB full metal jacket loaded up, and we're going to run that test here first and get going with that. We'll see how it runs, and we'll move up. And if things go well as planned, we may do a Kentucky ballistic test with the suppressor on it and see how that goes. So let's get shooting. To start off, we've got this 180 grain SMB ammo. I actually already shot this, so I know that it works, but I forgot to hit the press record, so let's do that again. Got some fancy new glasses, and we can see if we can get a shooter's perspective on this. Okay, seems to be running pretty good. Just checking out some of that brass. We aren't getting any expansion. The brass is all looking very nice, but again, this is, I would call it less than standard power and pressure loads. SMB isn't bad, but it's as like Federal, but it's not great. It's one of the lower quality ones. So, all right, let's move up in power then. Okay, so I now have 5 rounds of some Sig Sauer FMJ from my own testing in my series that I call Spicier Lame. I know that this is one of the hotter full metal jacket rounds that's out there. It's 180 grains. It's getting pretty close to and sometimes over 600 energy foot-pounds, which is pretty good for like range ammo. Of course, Sig ammo is also pretty expensive. So, but yeah. Seems to be running that just fine. I'm going to see if I can't find a case from that around here. Okay, I got a Sig case here, and everything seems fine with that. No bulging going on with this whatsoever. Let's go up in power again. Okay, and my apologies, I don't have the Garmin out with me today, but I do have some Velo 10mm. I've tested this before. It's okay. It's not great. But we'll put that through its paces in this gun to, it should be getting over 600 energy foot-pounds, but it's not over 700, and it's 200 grain, so it's just a bigger grain weight. See how it runs with this new spring system. Okay, just a few rounds of that. Ran it just fine. Let's keep moving on to another ammunition, and I'll see if I can find a case for that. Okay, I got a couple of the Velo cases. See, I can't see any bulging going on with these. They look very good from my perspective. See there's sometimes little dents when it's hitting the slide on extraction, but that's down at this part, and there's no bulging back up here though. Okay, now we're up to some real full power loads. We've got Underwood 200 grain. This ran before in the old spring system, but I still want to run 10 rounds with the new spring system to check function with it. All right, ran all of those just fine. Let's see if we can get some cases. So all of these cases are looking fantastic on this full power 10mm Underwood rounds. A couple of cases from it. Yeah, no bulging that I can see in those. Okay, so I have about 6 rounds of this Underwood 220 grain, and this is what would not run in the gun with the stock spring system in it. So we're finally at the test that I want to test at today. Only have 6 rounds of that Underwood. I do have some other rounds of some 220 grain buffalo bore, so if this works or it doesn't work, I'll probably try some of that next. But this is all I have of the Underwood today. Ran all that fine, and some of the other comments that I've been getting in the viewers is that the extraction pattern is pretty odd that we're seeing when we move to the 220 grain, and that is for sure true. The extraction pattern is normal on the other ones, but we're ended up at the higher end of the pressure for this gun, that's for sure. I've got cases being thrown forward, I've got cases skimming over the top of my head, and I've got cases going out to the right. So it definitely is getting pretty erratic with that, and I think that that is probably telling us something. But for those 6 rounds, this gun handled it. So, you know, and I guess I'd had 10 run before was my max, but most wouldn't run that long. So that's pretty good. I think the spring system is doing what I'm hoping it would do. So I'm pretty excited about that and allow me to sleep better at night, even if I don't know that it for sure isn't. But we'll pull out that buffalo bore 220 grain. I got a few more rounds of that. We'll try 10 rounds of that and see if we can get through it. Okay, this is just a look. These are the 220 grain cases. And see, there's no bulging going on. I do get dings where it's hitting the frame on the extractor. At least that's what I think is happening. I get that on my XDM Elite. I get that on, I think, my Tamfo too. I'm not too worried about that, and I've reloaded when they've had these dings. This is lower pressured round. I can't tell the difference between my lower pressure and my higher pressure ones here. These case walls are not blown out and seems to have great chamber support. Okay, I've got 10 rounds of the 220 grain buffalo bore. This is in my past testing. This is also hot and spicy stuff, so I expect it to be pretty smoky as the lead hard cast kind of gets vaporized as we shoot it down the barrel. So hopefully I won't breathe in too much. We are in a ventilated range and should be safe in here, but I expect to see it smoky. Ah, darn. And it didn't work off the bat. So I'm just guessing at this point, I'm going to stop testing some of this. Could be the extractor. It just doesn't, it runs fine on the rest of the ammo. Let me just kind of show you. I had a round that didn't totally extract and the gun had locked back or had gotten stuck, I guess, and was trying to load the next round. This is the heaviest spring from that system. So I guess in response, what I would say is don't buy that DPM system because it's not going to do any better than the factory spring. But I think it just means don't run 220 grain with this FN 510 gun is what I'm saying for final looks at that. Stop running that because I don't want to waste any of this ammo. All this ammo I've been testing is extremely expensive. So I'm going to stop testing that. And we're going to try to do another test to see what Kentucky Ballistics was doing. And here are just from these buffalo bore ammunition. I don't see any cases blowing out there either. So, chamber support good, guns ability, whatever it is, whether these rounds are just a little bit longer or what, but the 220 grain bullets it does not like. Okay, for our Kentucky ballistics test, we have our Dead Air Primal, which is a rifle cam, but you can convert it. It's 45 caliber, so it's plenty big for this 40.4 diameter bullet. It is a rifle caliber suppressor, so it's heavy. It's a heavy beast. We do have a Nielsen device on here, which allows it to cycle with the pistol. I've shot it on its big brother, the FNX Tactical, and works just fine there. What I have today, though, is the lightest ammunition that I have ever tested. Not lightest, the least powerful ammunition in 10 millimeter that I have ever tested, and that's this PPU defense line. It was clocking in at less than 1,000 feet per second, so that's terrible, except that it's probably subsonic. Well, it is subsonic at that. So hopefully through this barrel and this system, it'll remain subsonic and stays as bad as it always has, and then it should be super quiet. So let's give this a go, and hopefully we don't break off the front. This is what it's designed to do. But Kentucky Ballistics, similar setup, and I guess he was shooting 220 grain bullets, ironically. They were subsonics, but let's see how this goes. So it's running super well. Let me turn on this camera. You can get a look of it. It is splattering something awful back in my eyes. Whew! That can is not a great pistol can because it splatters something awful back into your face. However, that's super quiet ammunition. I hope you guys heard all of that. But dang, PPU, fine maker of the worst 10 millimeter ammo out there. It's like 40, it's like average 40 Smith & Wesson ammo. It's like 950 feet per second, something like that. But, you know, they can charge you more, underpower it, and then it becomes a great suppressor round for 10 millimeter. Now, of course, the other thing to test is, can we just run 40 Smith & Wesson, and then that will probably naturally be subsonic in this gun. But let's do a little bit more because it's kind of fun. Dang, that's so stupid quiet. It's like nothing. I'm pretty sure that's subsonic. I'm gonna try some S&B. I don't think that's subsonic. And I'm also gonna try some Federal. I don't think that's subsonic either. But let's try some Federal. Give it a go. We have a little bit more powerful ammunition. May break the sound barrier. I first have some S&B ammunition, followed by some Federal. First 3 rounds S&B, then Federal. We'll see. We'll do our own kind of testing here. Yeah, that's crack. So that Federal, I believe, is not passing the 1,000 feet per second threshold, or 1050, whatever it is around these parts for the speed of sound. So Federal is also a great subsonic choice. PPU and Federal. They're both so bad. They're great in a suppressor. I guess that's the takeaway. All right. Well, I think that's pretty fun. Let's wrap things up. Not sure how much of my camera caught where I was shooting at, but just for people to see, most of the hot and spicy rounds were here, and a lot of the subsonic and suppressor rounds were down on that target, although I think the 220 grains were shot down there too. Okay, well, let's wrap things up today. So I'm a little disappointed that putting in a new spring system, a heavier spring system, didn't improve our issues. Could be that it could be mag springs, but honestly, I'm not. I already have 4 different mags that I've tried out. I'm not going to replace the mag springs in it. I'm just not going to shoot the 220 grain hot stuff. It can handle all the 200 grain hot stuff that I've been able to either reload or test with Underwood, so I'm happy with that. But certainly when you go to that 220 grain, you start seeing erratic ejection patterns. You start seeing problems with the gun performing. So I think that's certainly something to keep in mind. And then I think, we tested, again, another wide variety of ammunition, ran flawlessly on everything except for 220 grain. So I think the gun is a go. We also did the Kentucky ballistics test to see if my gun would break, and it didn't when I shot it suppressed, and it ran fine. I don't have as many things or a range that I'm allowed to blow things up on like Kentucky ballistics is, or even shoot pickle jars and things like that, but it seemed to work on mine. So I'm glad to see. Hopefully that was just some kind of pre-fracture in his gun or something that had happened with his frame. Who knows? You know, he chucks stuff all around all the time. I don't know how he had treated his guns before that. I'm not alleging he did, but imperfections in manufacturing, I'm sure, are the problem. But hopefully and thankfully so far to date, knock on wood, it's running fine. I hope this was useful information for you. Not a ton of data in terms of chronographing other things, but a pretty comprehensive test of ammunition for the FN510 Tactical. I'm still feeling like it's a go and it's a good gun for me. I just won't run 220 grain. I never usually did. I usually ran 200 grain or the 190 Buffalo Bore monometal or the 200 grain hard casts that I reload for myself. So those are typically the rounds that I like. And then when I do something for more self-defense type purposes and not something that might be as big bodied type of thing that I want deep penetration, a lot of the jacket hollow points are 180 grains and those seem to run just fine too, or the extreme defenders or something like that. So I think these have been good tests. I've had a fun time looking at it. DPM system, I think probably is a fine spring system, but I just wouldn't spend the money on it trying to get it to work. And so hopefully that saved you a little bit. And I hope everyone has a great week and let's get to shooting.
Here in the heartland, where spirits run free, trigger bar philosopher, it's you and me. From pistols to rifles, we'll take on the best, reviewing each weapon, put them to the test. With revolvers and shotguns, we'll break it all down. The Second Amendment protects from